Okay, in this chapter we're going to look at a couple of tools that we didn't look at in any great detail earlier in the DVD, and those are the stitching and relaxing tools. So you'll find both of these up here in the tools menu. You can see you've got stitch selected here and you've got relax dialog here. So I'll explain what both of these are useful for. Firstly, the stitching tool. Well, if you've got two clusters, and you can actually see two clusters here, I've gone in and I've edited the UVs on the teapot, and I've actually created a new cluster here by breaking off this area of UVs here, and I've rotated it. So you can see that the UVs aren't aligned between these two areas as they used to be. And then what I've also done is I've gone over to this cluster here and I've actually compressed and moved around the vertices to create a kind of munge here, which really doesn't look very good. You can see that the UV mapping isn't very good at all. It's not very regular, and it doesn't represent the kind of map that we're trying to put onto it. So we've got two circumstances here. Here we need to kind of smooth out these UVs to make them more regular, like a grid. And over here we've got two clusters that we need to put back together again to actually get them aligned and stitched. So that's where the stitching tool comes in, and this is where the relaxing tool will actually come in. So let's have a look at the stitch tool first. So with the stitch tool, what you need to do is select one of the elements that should be joined together, and then it will actually detect another cluster that could actually be attached to it, and then it will align it for you automatically. So it's a very clever tool. So first of all, we need to go to edge mode, turn off select element, otherwise we'll end up selecting all the edges in our element, and then you can just select one edge for now. Go up to the tools menu, choose stitch selected, and you can see what it's done is it's detected that that edge shared an edge with this cluster here, and if I turn off these two options here, then what it does is it then gets that edge and it welds it with the edge from that cluster. Now you've got a couple of other options here which allow you to do something a little bit more clever. You can then align the two clusters together, and that will then bring this top cluster up here and drag it down and align it so it matches up. And if there was a scale difference, you can also use scale clusters, and that will then rescale the top cluster as well. So if I just cancel that again, you can see totally unaligned, and then as I said, you can just select an edge, stitch selected, with align clusters on, it will then align that cluster to the bottom one, and it will then stitch any selected edges that you've picked. Now if I OK that, you'll see what happens. Only that edge there is stitched, so I'll just undo it a few times. So what you need to do is select all of the edges along here, and I'm just doing that by holding down Control to add to my selection, exactly the same as in the rest of Max. Go to Tools, Stitch Selected, and there you are. You can see it's aligned the cluster, and if I click on OK and click off, you can see it's welded those vertices there as well. So it's a very, very powerful tool and a very quick way of aligning clusters, and if this cluster was smaller, it would also scale it for you as well. So it's a pretty neat little tool there. The second tool that we're going to look at is the Relax UVs tool, and this tool is used to get rid of any sort of kinks and irregularities and high levels of distortion that you may have in your mesh, in your UV mesh. So what you can do is you can select vertices, select the vertices that you want to relax, go to Tools, go to the Relax dialog, and this is the dialog here. You have a couple of options which I'll just explain and show you them in action. These are explained in much more detail actually in the next DVD in the series, so I'll leave that down to Dominic to give you a full explanation of what each one of these does. But we'll leave it on the default for now, Relax by Edge Angles. This is the iterations, and what that does is it's going to compare the edge angles to the actual mesh edge angles, and if it finds that there's a difference, it'll then try and resolve these towards the mesh angles, and in this case it's got 100 attempts to do that, and each time it does it, it'll do it by 0.1, and let's give that a quick try and you'll see what actually happens. You can see now it's actually relaxed, and you can see these UVs are resolving outwards, and do it again and again and again. So you can see it's going to take a while before it actually relaxes completely and you get a nice flat pattern here. So we'll just undo that a few times to get us back to where we were before. And you can see one of the problems I've got at the moment is that it's actually also relaxing the outer boundary, and we know that that's correct, so we want to keep that locked. So we can go up here and we can say keep boundary points fixed. So we'll just click on that and we can do apply, and as you can see now these are locked in place and it's only the inner vertices that get adjusted. We'll just undo that. And the next problem we have is 100 iterations isn't enough to give us what we want, so let's try making it work a little bit faster by putting in 500 there and apply, and again. So as you can see, that's got us much closer to what we should really have here, which is a regular grid. And you can actually use a variety of these different relaxation tools to try and get closer to a perfect grid pattern. But you can see it actually does a really great job of taking what was really a mess, as we have here, and resolving it out into a nice flat pattern. Now the nice thing about this feature as well is it actually does work with soft selection, so I can make a soft selection here, turn that on, we'll keep it on UVs, and it's out to about here, and if I apply that, you can see it's only actually applying to the soft selection. So I can just undo that a couple of times, and I could adjust this to be a little bit bigger, and then we could apply that again. So there you go. So it works with soft selections. You've got 3 different algorithms for deciding how the relaxation is going to take place. You can try out each one of these, and each one will give you slightly different results. And it may be that one of them will give you the best results. It looks in this case that it looks like relax by centers is actually giving us the best results of the lot, maybe. And this is used mainly for organic meshes, where you've applied UV mapping, and you've got what looks like pretty much a tangle of UVs, and you need to kind of unwrap them and make them more regular. And in this case you can apply the unwrap tool and get a much more regular layout by using that particular system. So that's it for those 2 tools. Now let's move on to the next chapter, and in the next chapter we're going to look at the 3 different methods for automatically unwrapping your UVs.